So Be'ez Hashem, we're starting Siman Lamed Zayin in haGuela, and he says, "Uve'inyan ha'hatzala masha nimlutu achenu b'nei Yisrael be'eretz Yisrael me'cherev ha'oyev." The fact that the Jews in Eretz Yisrael were saved from the enemies during the 6-day war. Kvar mevur b'hakdama shehaya be'echad mishnei oifanim. That there are two ways to explain how they were saved. So the fact that the war started, that was the Tzionim putting the Jews in danger, and it was Gzeira min Hashemayim. It was Gzeira from the Tzionim placed the Jews in danger. But the question was, what about the Hatzalah? Was the Hatzalah the work of the Samach Mem, or the Hatzalah was the work of HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the good of Klal Yisrael? Was it for the good or for the bad? So he says, B'hakdama, we explained two different ways to explain it. And if you turn back, it's in B'hakdama on pages Yud, Daled at the top. There's a long shtickle about Eoiv. It goes on from Yud Daled all the way to Yud Zayin. So basically, in the shtickle about Eoiv, he says Hashem appointed the Satan to torture Eoiv, but also to make sure that he doesn't kill him. And he explained why was that the Satan's job, to make sure Eoiv stays alive. So he explained B'harichas that the pshat is that the Satan wants only bad for a person. So keeping a person alive is not a bad thing, but for Eoiv it was a bad thing, because Eoiv lost his olam haba due to the fact that he stayed alive, because it says that he was mecharef from a gadef, and once he was mecharef from gadef, he deserved to be punished. So the Satan said, "Okay, we'll make him get better in this world so that he should lose his olam haba." So it was bad for him. So when something is done by the Satan, it means it's bad for him. So the nimshal to that is that in the war, the Satan wanted the Sionim to go to war, and he also wanted them to win the war because he wanted the Nisayan for Klal Yisrael that they should want to become Zionists. But then in page Yud Zayin, he presented the other side of the story, and that's what he says like this: line 5 of page Yud Zayin. He says this wasn't.
I'm sorry, wait.
I'm still in the Hakdama.
Oh.
On page Yud Zayin. Page Yud Zayin, line number 5. That in this war, in this paragraph,
okay.
That the victory of the Israelis was not because of the Satan testing them. He says, Kimei HaRashaim loy bo'u el hatzaras v'hatzlois. The Rishayim and the Samach Mem only caused the beginning of the war. V'hatzala ba'a me Hashem Yisbarach. But the saving of the war, that came from Hashem Yisbarach. Ela sha'al yudei ho'avoinas hamrubim nitan reshus l'Samach Mem l'hachnis bozet surasai. That really Hashem could have saved them in a way that had nothing to do with the Zionists, like some other nation could have intervened. But because of the Aveira of believing in Zionism, Hashem caused the Hatzalah to come through the Zionists, so people should see Ke'ilu the Zionists caused the Yeshua. As if it came from them and their army. Okay, so back to Siman Lamed Zayin. So basically he said there are two possible ways to explain the victory of the war. Uv'chol oifen v'hatzal azu hiskimu kol ha'pamalya shel mala. We're in Lamed Zayin again. Back to where we started today. There, second line. Uv'chol oifen, whether it's one or the other, it's one thing it's clear is that lahatzal azu hiskimu kol ha'pamalya shel mala. Pamalya shel mala is the malachim and shemaim. So all the malachim, side the malachim that are for the good and the ones that are for the bad, they were all maskim to the Hatzalah. So even if Hashem Yisbarach was the one who brought the Hatzalah and not the Samach Mem, but the Samach Mem was pretty happy about it because he knew the benefits he could reap from this victory. Okay? Uke'ein zeh perashti divrei hamedrash rabbah, parshas boy. I explained this with the same way, the words of the Medrash Rabbah. Hashem said to Moshe, stretch out your hand on Shemaim, there should be a makkah of darkness, and darkness that could be felt. The pasuk in Tehillim also tells over the makkah of choshech, and it says that he sent out the plague of darkness, and they did not rebel against his word. So who didn't rebel against his word? Who does this mean? The Egyptians didn't rebel? Adrabah, they did rebel. They didn't let the Jews out, right? Pharaoh didn't let them out. And Loy Maru, the Jews didn't rebel? Why did the Jews not rebel? What are they supposed to rebel? They're happy the Mitzrim are getting a plague. So what's Loy Maru es Devara? So Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'malachim HaMitzriyim ru'uyim lilkos. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to the Malachim, the Egyptians are deserving of punishment, b'choshech, to get the darkness. Miyad hiskimu kulam kiachas. All the Malachim agreed to it. V'loi himru v'chulu, v'loi himru es devar. They didn't rebel against his word. Ad kan lashon Medrash. The Medrash explaining who didn't rebel. The angels in Shemaim didn't rebel against this makkah of choshech. So why should they rebel? So he says, "Upirshim mafarshei Medrash ki b'chol hamishpatim wal yoinim yeshno malachim ma'iminim hamalamdim schus u'masmeilim hamalamdim choiva." That HaKadosh Baruch Hu has up there a bezdin of malachim. He has some malachim who try to defend the person getting punished, and other malachim who try to prosecute him, mekatrigim and praklitim. Okay. So, and it means the Mitzrim. The Mitzrim are the ones getting punished. So the Mitzrim had their malachim and Shemaim that were trying to defend them. Whenever Hashem brought a makkah on the Mitzrayim, Dam, Choshech, Dam, Svardea, Kinim, everything else, right? Makkah's Bechoros. Every time there was a makkah, there was a din in Shemaim. There was Bezdin Shalmala was sitting with malachim. The malachim that were pro-Egypt and the malachim that were anti-Egypt, and they sat and they discussed it. And they fought about it. But in this mishpat, this discussion of the makkah of choshech, they didn't rebel. Even the pro-Egyptian angels also, he's kimu ha'makkahs choshech. So the question is, why did they agree to it? Why did this makkah have a different outcome than the other makkahs? Why did the malachim agree that they should get hit with this makkah? We find other times that the malach of Mitzrayim fought for Mitzrayim, and he fought against Klal Yisrael. And he whenever there was a chance to defend the Mitzrayim, he defended them. That it says by the Kriyas Yamsuf, the water was a wall. So one time it's written chayma, and the second time it's written without a vav, chayma, it looks like it's written chema. The kri ksiv, the kri is chayma, but the ksiv is like chema. Chema means anger. So the water was like a wall over the Jewish people walking through the Yamsuf, but it was like an angry wall. It was ready to fall upon them. Why? The Samach Mem, the Samach Mem, which is, I guess that's the Sar Shel Mitzrayim, came down and said to Hashem, Ribono Shel Olam, Avdu Yisrael Avodah Zarah b'Mitzrayim? Didn't the Jews also worship Avodah Zarah? V'ata oiseh lahem nisim, and you're going to do a nace and protect them from the Yamsuf? Why are the Mitzrayim dying and the Yidden are living? Why do they deserve to live? Okay, and that's what the Gra has a famous word on this pasuk. The Gra says, why does it say one time? There's two psukim. It says, "Uvnei Yisrael halchu vayabasha b'soich hayam v'amayim lohem chayma," and then that's the second one. But the first one says, "Uvnei Yisrael halchu b'soich hayam vayabasha." It says the other way around. They went in the yam vayabasha, and again v'amayim lohem chayma. So the Gra says there were tzaddikim among the Jews. There was Nachshon ben Aminadav and his Shevet Yehuda that believed, and they went into the water before it turned into dry land. So they jumped into the water. It says that they halchu b'soich hayam bayabasha. They went into the yam before it became dry, and then it became dry. So those Jews were good. There was no time on them. But the other ones who didn't believe until the water split, so they were halchu bayabasha b'soich hayam, and that's why it was chema. But Lamai said that you see that there was a kitrug in Shemaim against the Yidden and pro Mitzrayim. There was always some kind of a fight going on in Bez and Shemaim. So the kasher is in Kain Madua Hiskimu Kulam Machas Choshech V'Loi Kitrugu Klal Bozeh Tzarich Bir. He says, why by Choshech? Why was there no argument? Why was there no kitrug? Why didn't the Malachim of Mitzrayim stick up for Mitzrayim? Okay, Upirashti. So he says, I explained the V'Machas Choshech Haya Nisayan Gadol Yisrael. That the reason why the Samach Mem liked this Makkah is because there was a Nisayan. Because there was a Nisayan that the Jews had a chance now to escape. Because it was dark for the Mitzrim, they couldn't see anything, and for the last 3 days they were paralyzed. They couldn't stop the Jews from escaping. They were completely paralyzed. They didn't see anybody, they didn't get up for 3 days. They could have gone out from Mitzrayim early. Mitzrayim couldn't stop them. They could have taken the sword and fought against the Mitzrayim. They could have killed them. They were all paralyzed like dead bodies. They couldn't move their hands and feet. So they had a chance to do that, and the Samach Mem wanted to give them that Nisayan. If they would have done that, then it would have been a bad thing. Why? Because the Shalosh Shavuos was around then too. Like we always see. We see it in the Divrei Shal from Reb Shal Nathanson, right? The Poisek, he wrote a pirush that the Jews didn't rebel in Mitzrayim because they were mushpa to stay under the king they were in, the king that they were under. And we see that the Bnei Ephraim were over on the Shalosh Shavuos because they went out early. And Reb Shlomo Kluger and the haGuela talks about it. Everyone says there was a Shalosh Shavuos in Mitzrayim too. Okay? So if there was a Shalosh Shavuos in Mitzrayim too, then if they would have gone out early, it would have been in Aveir. Oh, and that's what also it says that Vayashba Yosef es b'nei Yisrael lemor. Yosef put a shvua upon them and he said, Pakoid yifkoid Elokim eschem. He said they're not supposed to go out unless they hear the secret words Pakoid yifkoid. Navi emes, the true Navi has to say those words. Va'afilu rega achas, and even after the true Navi came, which is Moshe Rabbeinu, but even 1 minute lifnei hazman lo hayu rishayim latzis, they weren't allowed to go out. So he's saying basically this is a mashal for what's going on in the 67 war, right? That here you have a case where the Jews are saved, even if they're saved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but the Samach Mem, who's anti-Jewish, is still happy with it. Why is he happy with it? Because he likes when they have an Isayan, because he knows that they might stumble in this thing. They might go into become Zionists. So that's what the same thing. Just like then, they could have become Zionists. So here also, what happened? I don't know if he means the 67 more, or maybe he means the whole Medina, the whole 48 situation. That it came a time. First of all, not throughout history it wasn't so easy to establish a Zionist state. The Turks were ruling. You can't just come and invade. It's not going to work. They had an opportunity in World War I where the Turks were falling apart. The British invaded. They had a chance to get their foot in there, and they got the Balfour Declaration. And then by World War II, also, the whole world the map was being redrawn in the world, and the UN was just created, and Jews had just been killed in the Holocaust. So there was just like an opportunity at that time. It was like a makas choshech. It was like a period where the Goyim were unusually weak and predisposed to do something for the Jews, and they had an opportunity. They could chop around and get what they wanted, and get the Medina. Okay? Upuk chazi. He says, you see that they weren't allowed to go out even 1 minute before, because you see from Masha Kostav Yonasim and Uziel, Targum Yonasim, Parshas Yisroi, al pasuk v'esta eschem al kanvei nesharim, says that he brought them on eagle's wings. So shebeleil Pesach hoylichu ho'ananim es Yisrael l'makom hamikdash, that they were in Mitzrayim, and the clouds picked them up and carried them to Eretz Yisrael, to the place of the Mikdash, and they lechol pischeim, and they ate the korban Pesach over there. V'hechzirum ha'ananim l'Mitzrayim. Then the clouds picked them up and put them back in Mitzrayim. V'lo yatzu ela b'yayim machar. And they only left Mitzrayim the next day. So according to that, why didn't they leave at night? They were in Eretz Yisrael, so they just stay there. Answer is no. They had to go out on the day when Hashem wanted them to go out. They couldn't go out early. Because the Galus time period was not finished yet. There was no heter to go out even 1 minute early. You see what happened to the Bnei Ephraim. They went out too early. So this makas choshech was a trial. It was an opportunity for them to do this aveira. It could be that the Rishaim among the Jewish people, who were the majority at that time, he says, they weren't able to withstand the test. But the reason why they didn't actually go out is because they died. There was an oynish that they also died. It says, V'chamushim all over the Israel me'eretz Mitzrayim. 1/5 of them came out, and the other 80% died in the makas choshech. Now we know why the Malachim all agreed, bein ha'ma'aminim uvein ha'masmilim, whether it's the pro-Egypt Malachim or the anti-Egypt. He also agreed, because first of all, those 80% of the Jews died out, but mainly because the Jewish people had an Nisayan, because they didn't believe that the Yidden would be able to withstand it. It's not to go out early. And therefore they wanted it so that they could go and say bad about Klal Yisrael. So the same thing happened with the 67 war. He wanted this war to happen, obviously, but not only that, but he wanted the victory to happen. Why? The actual war was planned by him, to bring the Jewish people into a trial. He thought from the beginning that through this war and through the victory, he'd be able to fool and convince Jews to leave their belief, and to cause them to join up with the Zionists. So before the war, the Malachim that were pro-Jewish were against the war. But once the war was started, they at least had to agree that they should win the war, because if they don't win the war, the Chas Shalom, they'll be killed. So even the good Malachim agreed that the Israelis should win the war, but they did this with great pain. They didn't want, but they had no choice. They knew that all these trials would be that would happen due to the victory of the Zionists. So they didn't want to agree to it, but they had no choice because there was a sakana.
What is the previous?